2021 has been host to some of the most iconic matchups in UFC history, from Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier's trilogy bout, to Nick Diaz's rematch 17 years in the making with Robbie Lawler, to fresh rivalries like Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega. It's safe to say that we as die-hard MMA fans had a blast over the past 12 months. But of course, there is no off-season in the UFC. That means as we bid 2021 goodbye, we immediately have to turn our attention to the upcoming calendar year because the show must go on. Fortunately, there are a number of title fights, marquee matchups, and bad blood rivalries in store for us in 2022. With that considered, let's look ahead at the year that's to come as we discuss 5 of the most hyped matches we hope to see in 2022. Let's get started. Ciryl Adesanya vs. Robert Whittaker 2. Let's begin with one we know for sure is going to take place, barring injuries and unforeseen health concerns, of course. I'm talking about Ciryl Adesanya vs. Robert Whittaker 2, a matchup booked to headline UFC 271 in February. Adesanya vs. Whittaker is something we've seen before. The pair of Oceanian MMA superstars clashed in a title unification bout in 2019, with Adesanya getting the best of Whittaker. However, a lot has changed since then. For one, Bobby Knuckles should be in peak physical condition for the rematch, unlike their initial encounter. Whittaker had gone through dual surgery for an abdominal hernia and a twisted and collapsed bowel in the lead up to 243. Not to take anything away from Adesanya's spectacular KO win, but we can only imagine that those injuries had an effect on Whittaker's performance. On top of that, Adesanya's era of invincibility is now shattered after a failed attempt to dethrone Jan Blachowicz in 2020. Now that Whittaker has seen a 25-minute instructional video of how he could beat Adesanya, it's interesting how he would fare against the last stylebender in a second go-round. Khamzat Chimaev versus a top 5 contender. Everyone who follows the UFC knows that Khamzat Chimaev is a special prospect. Despite being fairly inactive over the course of his UFC stint, Chimaev has never failed to amaze with his sheer domination. Astoundingly, Borz has only absorbed one significant strike through 4 fights in the octagon. That's how terrifyingly indomitable the man appears to be. With that in mind, a huge segment of UFC fans wants to put Chimaev on a fast track to title contention, as he could very well pose a legitimate threat to reigning UFC welterweight champ Kamaru Usman. However, the Russian-born Swede is currently ranked number 11 in the welterweight rankings, and with all due respect, it would be downright unjust for him to cut the line ahead to the likes of Leon Edwards and Vicente Luque. Taking that into consideration, the next best thing we could do is ask for a Chimaev versus any contender inside the top 5. Doing so would provide us with some valuable insight. If Chimaev is the real deal, then he could rightfully earn a title shot by virtue of defeating a top contender. If, on the other hand, he's not ready for that level of competition, then we can go stop wondering how he would fare against the champ and patiently wait for his development. Petr Yan vs. Aljamain Sterling 2. Most of us will agree that the conclusion of the bantamweight title fight between Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling at UFC 259 was disappointing to say the least. It appeared as though Yan was about to take over the fight late, as he usually does, with his relentless forward pressure and stellar striking. However, one of the biggest WTF moments unfolded. The challenger took an illegal knee to the head as he was down. Unable to continue, Sterling was awarded a victory via disqualification and became the most undisputed champ of all time. With all the controversy surrounding the fight, a Yan vs. Sterling rematch was booked 6 months later and slated as the co-main event of UFC 267 in Abu Dhabi. Unfortunately, the Funkmaster was removed from the fight due to lingering neck issues, nixing the rematch. Yan went on to face and beat Corey Sandhagen for the interim bantamweight title, securing a unification bout with his bitter rival. In 2022, the long-awaited second installment of Sterling vs. Yan should inevitably take place. That's the hope, at least. After all, the fight has to happen at some point, right? We don't want another Khabib vs. Tony Ferguson situation in our hands. Jon Jones vs. Francis Ngannou or Ciryl Gane. Training partners turned rivals, Francis Ngannou and Ciryl Gane will battle it out for the heavyweight supremacy to kick off the year in 2022. That much we already know. While the main event title clash between the two juggernauts is a highly anticipated matchup in itself, Jon Jones versus the winner of that showdown is where the real money is at. For several years now, Jones has been talking about his impending move to the land of the giants. For what it's worth, Jones climbing to heavyweight is the right move to make legacy-wise. If he can capture the heavyweight throne after a long dominant reign as the king of 205, Bones could solidify his status as the undisputed MMA GOAT. However, getting there will be anything but easy as Ngannou or Kane present legitimate threats to Jones. Ngannou's ungodly KO power could end a fight in any given moment. And while Jones has faced some heavy hitters during his run, no fighter in the UFC possesses such an explosive punching power like the Predator does. Meanwhile, Gane's technical proficiency along with his size takes away the advantages Jones has enjoyed and utilized throughout his light heavyweight reign. Either way, Jones facing whoever holds the heavyweight crown in 2022 is high up on any MMA fan's watch list. Jorge Masvidal vs Colby Covington. Nothing injects more hype into an already interesting matchup quite like real-life Bad Blood does. And if you're searching for a grudge match that's packed with legitimate animosity and a rich history, look no further than Colby Covington vs Jorge Masvidal. This rivalry is so titillating it could very well be the script for a movie. Covington and Masvidal, of course, were once the closest of friends, so much that at one point, both men have stated they never intended to fight each other unless it's for the title. Old photos of Covington and Masvidal also indicate that they were even housemates at one point. However, their relationship deteriorated over the years and now they're arch nemesis. Why did they fall apart? It depends on who you'll ask, as the two have different versions of the story. Nonetheless, that's besides the point. Point is, we want to see Covington and Masvidal settle their differences in the octagon. Not only that, the UFC hopefully capitalizes on the opportunity and make them opposing coaches in the hit reality show The Ultimate Fighter. That's not to say, however, that Covington and Masvidal need more reasons to resent each other. But if we're doing this, let's pull out all the stops, no holds barred. Do the rivalry some justice by bringing out the whole shebang, and hopefully 2022 is the year we see this feud play out.